you heard about what's happening in the Democratic Republic of the Congo? Well, millions of people are in serious crisis, and according to advocacy groups and refugee agencies, the world isn't paying attention. Here's a quick recap of what's going down in the DRC.
Congo crisis, in a nutshell. Since 1996, over 6 million people have died in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, so that we, in the Western world, can benefit from its resources. Congo is extremely rich in gold, diamonds, copper, cobalt, tin, uranium, coltan, and many other.
Congo is incredibly rich in minerals, while also being one of the largest countries in Africa. However, it is also one of the most economically deprived countries. Congo is one of the major mining countries of Africa, it's home to the largest reserves of metals and rare minerals that are used to make electronics. So whether it's cobalt or diamond or copper or gold and coltan, it will be found in Congo, and Congo is very rich in these minerals. And the key mineral that is found in Congo is coltan, that is used to power technology.
And here's what you need to know, Joe, about this video. This is an industrial cobalt mine where there's not supposed to be one artisanal miner. Now that's the term used for people who are just digging by hand as opposed to tractors and excavators. There's not supposed to be one here. That's what the story is told at the top of the chain. There's more than 15,000 human beings crammed into that pit, digging by hand.
Coltan mining is an extremely labor-intensive process in which primary producers, such as the Congo, operate in poor working conditions.
And so a lot of modern day technology that we use, whether it's iPhones, laptops, all of that, they need coltan.
Coltan is a metallic ore that is found in many parts of the world, with one of the most notable mining locations being the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
And the West has been exploiting Congo heavily for this coltan, which is why we're able to constantly have like iPhone releases back to back and all of these new products and all of that and mass producing them. It's because the West is exploiting Congo for its coltan.
Coltan is used to manufacture tantalum capacitors, which are used for mobile phones, personal computers, automotive, electronics, and cameras.
People are working in very, very harsh conditions, very deadly conditions, a lot of times against their will to produce this coltan.
They are using unethical coltan sources to obtain their minerals, which reinforce slave labor, including of men, women, and children.
If you have sound, you hear the mallets, you hear the shouting, you hear the grunts.
And I just want to mention also, mining coltan is incredibly hard. It's laborious, and a lot of people are risking their lives because the mines do collapse. And on top of this labor, they're being murdered senselessly.
If you honored the humanity of Black, African, poor laborers, they've been made to be poor, okay? You would pay them, you would have safe environments for them to work in, but you dehumanize them to such an extent and you view them literally as numbers on a balance sheet.
Children as well. Children, literally children. So
most of the people are working in mines unwillingly, with most being children.
This is one of the thousands of unregulated, unmonitored mines in the DRC. It's crawling with children, working like modern-day slaves. A 12-hour-long day of punishing work may earn them the equivalent of £1.
This is the bottom of the supply chain of your iPhone, of your Tesla, of your Samsung. I mean, I'm just naming those companies. Right. It's all of them, right?
So it is no irony. It's no mistake when we say everything is connected, that I'm recording this using a laptop, using a camera, using electronic devices powered by the literal blood, the literal suffering and torment of the Congolese people, both through coltan, but also through cobalt.
There's no clean cobalt. Let's just make that totally abundantly clear.
There is a genocide going on in Congo right now, and it is not new. This has been going on for decades, and the atrocities that are being committed over there are just unspeakable.
There's currently a very deadly genocide for power and control over Eastern Congo, an area that is widely rich in minerals.
The Congolese people are being exploited by rebel groups on behalf of the global technology trade.
According to Human Rights Watch, rebels in Eastern DRC have been committing mass killings, sexual assaults, and other war crimes.
And so these rebel groups Who do they serve? Like, who are they there for? They're there on behalf of the global technology trade. Apple, Tesla.
iPhone, of your Tesla, of your Samsung.
So think of Panasonic, Samsung, Tesla, Apple.
I mean, I'm just naming those companies. Right. It's all of them, right?
They are using unethical coltan sources to obtain their minerals, which reinforce slave labor, including of men, women, and children.
The M23, which is a rebel group, has been responsible for these killings, dismemberment, sexual assault, displacement of thousands of Congolese adults and children.
Many companies from industrialized countries buy coltan via illicit means from these rebel groups, primarily done via Rwanda, in which many resources are smuggled into from the Congo.
According to the advocacy group, rebels in eastern DRC have rained down on populated areas, damaging infrastructure and killing and injuring civilians. In fact, fighting between the DRC's national army and the rebel group has displaced too many people to count.
The UN Refugee Agency states that the DRC is the most complex and long-standing humanitarian crisis in Africa, and it is home to the fourth largest group of internationally displaced people in the world. M23, which is the rebel group that is actively murdering the Congolese people today, is made up of members from Rwanda, Uganda, and other neighboring countries.
Militant groups with ever-changing acronyms are not who they claim to be, and neighbors loot and murder while they are praised by the international community.
While politically powerful countries such as Britain, the US, France, China, and Israel,
there you go.
all benefit. They all benefit from this exploitation because they continue to extract the mineral resources from Congo for their own profit. So all of these countries are benefiting from this exploitation. And
companies from China, the EU, the US, and Russia are the primary consumers of illicit coltan resources.
The powerful countries of the world are funding militias. The militias use rape as a weapon of war.
From 1996 to the present, an estimated 6 million dead. Abject poverty. People living in bestial conditions. Hundreds of thousands of women systematically raped as a strategy of war.
Rape happened to be one of the weapon that worked the most, because as soon as you destabilize a community, you rape the entire village, the women of the entire village, in front of the children, in front of the husband, in front of the neighbors, that community is broken completely. Because the men cannot look at the wives in the eye and say, we were unable to protect you, and the women cannot survive that trauma.
However, it is really, really important to mention that the blame is to be put on the most powerful and politically influential countries of the world. We need to point our fingers towards them because it's the same culprits in all of these other genocides that are happening. A Palestinian writer and activist actually spoke about this, spoke about what's happening in Congo and linked it to the genocide in Palestine by stating the following. So I want to point out that, in fact, Israel is at the heart of the genocide in the DRC. Israel has been arming and training militias in Rwanda and Uganda to maintain the violent chaos that facilitates Western mineral extractions from Congo's mine.
So basically, there is an Israel billionaire who used his corruption ways to obtain Congolese mines where there is cobalt, and now he decided to sell those cobalt mines to a mining giant that is known as Glencore. So the same Glencore provides Tesla the cobalt that they need to provide its electrical vehicles. And they also provide this cobalt that they illegally mine from the Congolese land to companies such as Apple Company. This person is now getting something like $250,000 a day in a form of royalties.
Dig deeper into any atrocity across Africa and you will find Israel. From the Rwandan genocide, Israeli arms dealers boasted about supplying weapons, to the genocidal diamond extraction industry or any other extractives in Africa. And it's really true. Israel, one of Israel's biggest export is diamonds. But fun fact, it's important to know that Israel does not have any diamond mines. But you know who do? Congo. Most of these diamonds come from African countries such as South Africa, Liberia, Congo, Ivory Coast, amongst others. These countries are directly linked to the groups committing massacres against civilians in order to obtain diamonds. This has caused the diamond trade in Africa to be called the dirty trade. The jewels are called blood diamonds because the blood of thousands of Africans is shed in order to extract and market them. So again, we see the undeniable link.
The history of the country I come from, the Democratic Republic of Congo, has been one of colonizing, disempowering, extracting resources, and removing the people's agency over their bodies, their land, their hearts, their destinies. The reason for this unrelenting violence are an ongoing proxy war for the country's vast mineral resources, which are essential to the production of your computers, phones, and electronics. In Congo, rape is a weapon of war used by militias to rip apart our communities, resulting in catastrophic sexual violence, political upheaval, displacement, and disease.
So what is happening in Eastern Congo? Thousands of people are fleeing violence in Eastern Congo as fighting intensifies between the Congolese army and an armed group called M23. Eastern Congo has been struggling with violence for decades, with over 120 different groups fighting for power, land and mineral resources, and others trying to defend their communities. The armed groups have carried out campaigns of violence and have been accused of mass killings. The conflict spiked towards the end of 2021 when a rebel group called M23 resurfaced to seize territory. The UN and human rights groups say that the group has support from Rwanda, but the country itself denies it. The heightened conflict has pushed 6.9 million people to flee their homes, according to the UN, who are calling it one of the largest humanitarian crises in the world.
The UN Refugee Agency says the DRC is the most complex and long-standing humanitarian crisis in Africa and is home to the fourth largest group of internationally displaced people in the world. Over 5 million people are displaced today, and more than 1 million Congolese have sought asylum mostly within Africa. Innocent civilians have been forced to flee their homes with little hope of ever returning. And keep in mind, the DRC isn't just home to its born citizens. In fact, 500,000 refugees from neighboring countries call the nation home, 3/4 of whom live outside refugee camps and settlements today. And to make things worse, while all of this is happening, disease outbreaks and natural disasters are wreaking havoc on the people. Oh, and we can't forget that buried beneath the surface of African nations is wealth beyond comparison, making its mining industry one of the most important in the world. Africa is a major producer of gold, diamond, cobalt, coal, copper, and so much more. And Congo has never been the exception, as it is one of the major mining countries on the continent. Earlier this year, Pope Francis visited the country and said the world should stop choking Africa and get their hands off the DRC. Advocates have long said that while others get rich off these nations, they are literally left to starve. According to Save the Children, malnutrition levels in the country were already high even before the war, and now families have no idea where their next meal will come from. Additionally, over 26 million people, including 4.5 million children, are in urgent need of food aid.
The story of Congo is often overlooked for its complexity. It's a story where boundaries are porous and national identities mean little.
Okay. International avoidance leads to low coverage of the conflict. Thus, finding up-to-date information is difficult. They acknowledge this.
This clip shows the DR Congo football team protesting during their national anthem ahead of their team's Africa Cup of Nations semi-final. They've all got their hands over their mouths and 2 fingers to their temples, and they're also all wearing black armbands. But why are they doing this? Well, it's a protest to highlight the armed violence happening in Eastern Congo and that no one is speaking out to stop it. The black armbands are in recognition of the lives lost during the conflict. Ahead of the game, Captain Chancel Bemba and Cedric Bakambu had posted on social media to bring attention to the issue. Their coach, Sebastien Desabre, spoke on it after the protests, saying that the football team is a driving force for a nation and it was their duty to be able to inform what is happening behind the scenes and show support to the victims.
But the death toll is now surpassing that of the Holocaust, in part because of the way the United States is involved in Central Africa.
The truth that needs to get out there, that's the truth people need to understand, because this is a story that goes back generations. There's these fictions told at the top of the chain about what conditions are like at the bottom, and truth seekers have to go find that truth and enlighten civilization so that people get agitated about it.
Have you been keeping up with the crisis in the DRC? Let us know in the comments below.